Hello everybody, it's Narrative Tarot. I'm here to do like a quick-ish video about my decks. So there's a fan on, just ignore that. But yeah, I did a video, I think maybe close to like 8-9 months ago, maybe even a year ago, about my decks. And I just wanted to discuss briefly like my kind of not necessarily process for getting decks, but the system that I use, because that kind of plays into how this channel got set up. So let's get into that just a little bit. So hi, I'm like in the process of like washing my hair and drying my hair now. I'm Narrative Tarot. I read tarot here on YouTube. I'm currently taking a break and I'm just going to do more content that's outside of that. Just water just running out everywhere. And yeah, this is my tarot collection. I'm going to do tarot first and then I'll do oracle like some other time because that doesn't really have a system. But this does. So let's go back. So this is the system. I read by planet. And the reason I read by planet is because I'm very interested in astrology and the natal chart and how it helps you look and see things from a different perspective and an overall view of your life and things like that. And there's certain aspects in there that are lessons and certain aspects that are gifts and blessings. Certain things are dealing with your family, certain things are dealing with your just personal development, some things are dealing with your work, career, mental health, your ability to make finances, things like that. So there's a big self-other kind of thing going on in astrology, and I'm very interested in that. And so I feel like in our natal charts, we all have like we all have aspects, right? Some people are more aspected than others. Like I have a ton of oppositions and squares. So we all have like aspects in our charts, some more than others, some more detrimental, I guess, than others, or some with heavier lessons to learn than others. So I read by planet as a result. I don't do zodiac because I don't think it gives it justice nearly as much. Because if I were to read by zodiac, I would kind of start pulling in constellation instead. The actual constellation of the zodiac name, but the constellation for it and stuff like that, and start doing it that way, as opposed to just a flat zodiac. Even though learning about the zodiacs and learning about correspondences and things like that does kind of overlap. So that's why you'll see when I do planet readings, I put the zodiac sign in like parentheses or whatever so that you know what it is. But going forward, I don't think I'm doing that. I think whoever wants to deal with that style of reading, I'll do it for like a few months and then eventually just say I'm going to go forward with just the planet name. And whatever you feel drawn to is what you feel drawn to, because with this zodiac thing, people get really hung up on like I'm a Gemini or I'm an Aquarius or I'm a Scorpio or I'm a Sag or I'm an Aries, and you may not have lessons associated with that planet. It may not be particular aspects that you need to work through with that like sign. It may be Mars, but it may be in Capricorn. It may be, Jupiter, but it may be in Pisces or something like that. Like you may have more influences by like planet than like sign sometimes. And the sign just may be more significant to you, but I think the planet may be more significant when you look at the chart and stuff like that. It does mean something to have a planet in a certain sign, but I kind of feel like it means a little bit more sometimes to have the understanding of aspects and where it is in the chart as opposed to just the sign. So if I do keep the sign, it's not going to be just the sign, it's going to be aspects and house placements and things like that. Also, I'm getting more into like dwarf planets, trans-Neptunian planets. So when we start to get closer to Pluto, the far edges of the solar system, there are some like actual dwarf planets that are like beyond that, and I'm starting to read about those, and like asteroids and stuff like that. And those, as I'm reading those, have so much like potential for like healing and learning and guidance that we don't focus on because we're so focused on just the solar system, but then just the zodiac stuff. And so I really want to get away from that. So I decided to read by planet because of those reasons. It's growing and deepening and developing more and more as I get into this kind of practice. And I'm at the point in my journey where I want to learn more. I want to read for people, but I want to learn more so that I can offer people more in the way of like a reading. I don't want to just be a surface level reader. I want to actually offer something that's constructive and helpful and helps you evolve and not devolve as a person. So that's how it is. Let's get to the decks. Each pile represents like a planet. So let's go through each. And so there's certain piles that are, like smaller than others. And that kind of lets me know where I need to maybe put my buying efforts because I love buying. I love buying decks. I just like it. So it's just one of those things. I like visual art. I like stuff like that. So whatever. All right. So we're going to go over here. This is Pluto. So these are my Plutonian decks. There's no real like reason in terms of aesthetic. When it comes to me picking decks, it's more like the vibe and the sort of readings I can do with it. So I have done like love readings. They're not love decks or my autumn decks or my fall decks or my fairy decks or my modern decks. That's not how I read. Like I said, planet. So, and I'm just going to go briefly through each one. So this is Tarot del Fuego. Tarot del Toro. So this is Guillermo del Toro's deck. Spellcaster's Tarot. The Mandala Astrological Tarot. I don't see this too much for people. The Mary L. Tarot, of course, it's a Plutonian for me. And when I say Plutonian, I mean more transformative, more about the self journey, more about confronting, more about really just confrontation. I think Pluto's best aspects are when you confront things head on, and that's why they're able to rejuvenate and just turn over so well, because they're confronting things as opposed to being an avoidant. On the other side is you're scared of everything and you're scared of the dark and you don't want to change and stuff like that because you have that fixed energy. So we have the 7th Sea. This isn't particularly a tarot deck, but it does follow like the 78 system. It's a deck. Okay, so I went to the event for this. The artist was talking about this, and he had this deck, and he was saying that this is a deck that would be in the world of this. It's a game, and so the people in that world would have this deck. Like, some of them would have a deck like this if they lived in that world. If it were, real. Tarot of the Cat people, I find that this is more somatic. So somatic experiencing, somatic healing, things like that. It's more about the body transformation. It's not necessarily health, but it's kind of how your stress responses and stuff like that show up on the body. And so I put it under Pluto. We have Venus, which could also be about aesthetics and things like that. And I put one deck in here because I was like, well, I kind of feel like it would fit here more than anywhere else. So the Antique Anatomy Tarot is the deck that I am talking about regards to that, because it talks about finances. If you're dealing with Venus, you're dealing with like Libra and Taurus. Taurus deals with like the second house if you're going to do like the zodiac and stuff like that. And so I basically put this in there. It's really good with that. It's also good with sacrifices dealing with sacrifices and what you sacrifice for like people around you that you love. And so in that way, it can also be a Saturnian deck. And some of these do overlap, but like the main planet that I get is like one. Um, the Tattoo Tarot, I find that this is about more about like describing like the actual people. Like if you could actually get a reading, describing the people, and the situations and the strings being pulled, the certain qualities that you're drawn into. Very similarly, the Gustav Klimt as the artist, well, not the full artist, because this person takes some of the artwork, and modifies it and does all this stuff. But anyway, I like this deck for Helix readings, so kind of more like you meet people and you transform. So the Helix reading, I probably should start doing these readings like on here. But the Helix reading I do is kind of like how you guys start off and how you guys end in the journey between the two of you. So more like if you're on that twin flame wave, which I got off a long time ago, but if you're on that wave of divine partnership, twin flame especially, then go for it. Cosmic Tarot, it's kind of just, I don't want to say it's just there, but it's there. And so, yeah. I do find that it may be more about when you're in this space of like trying to figure out the person or try to figure out what attracts you, but in a more Neptunian maybe way, and that there may be some karmic imprints that you have, but you can't figure them out. So there's that. These are my Martian decks. This is the Osho Zen Tarot. I feel like this deck is just excellent if you have like anger issues. Anger issues, and you want to like process your anger issues, but from a like kind of Zen way. It's kind of you're in this like again Neptunian space. And maybe like Neptune in like the 12th, or like Mars and Neptune in the 12th, if you want to put astrological stuff like that. And you're fighting your way through these kind of illusory kind of things, your triggers essentially, but in a more subconscious, even unconscious way. Next we have Crow's Magic. I forget. I think it is. I think it's Crow's Magic. I know there's like the Crow Tarot and like the Dark Crow or something, like the Murder Crow Tarot or something like that. But this is Crow's Magic. In my mind, I just hear somebody like Crow's Magic. Like that's what I hear. It's like a deep, burly like voice. Awakening Aeon Tarot. It's for Mars. It's more like devoting yourself, I think, to learning about yourself. So this is a more disciplined kind of Mars energy for me, because the reading I do with it, that I've done with it, through my development, working to develop readings, there we go. This is more like a disciplined, like action orientated kind of deck. Like it wants to have action orientated kind of things and having principles and stuff like that. Not by the book in that it's like a killjoy, but like it definitely stands in integrity. So Mercury, it's just communication. So this one was for my ratchet readings. I call it my ratchet deck. It's one of my first decks actually, and that I still have. And so I actually pull this rarely, but I like this for he said, she said type things. That's why I call it my ratchet reading. My ratchet deck. He said, she said kind of things. This is more like an overall situation, what the situation is communicating. So there's that. I was considering throwing it away, but I've kind of gotten rid of most of the decks that I don't like overall. And so I'm less inclined to throw any more out or like donate or give any away, because all of the ones that I didn't really want, that really didn't fit, are gone. So this is more like overall kind of approach. This one is just there. as well. I kind of got it because I wanted to learn Kabbalah a little bit, and it had a little bit of Hebrew. It has a little bit of like Hebrew stuff, and I wanted to learn the correspondences, and I like the size of it. It isn't really giving me anything, maybe because I haven't worked with it nearly as much, but I tend to work with most of these decks, which is a good thing because I know some people, they buy a bunch of decks and they never work with them. Like I've actually I've worked with all of them. I've done a reading with all of them at some point. What is this? Paracelsus's Dream Tarot. So this is like good if you really like darker themed decks, but if you like, I wanted to say Golden Dawn or something like that. Ruscatarian. I forget what the symbol is, but yeah, if you're interested in stuff like that, Golden Dawn and like Secret Society type stuff, you might like that. Similarly, you may like the Hermetic Tarot as well, because I feel like they follow the same kind of thing. They give really good readings, but they give really esoteric readings that you may not understand at first. You may not understand them, and sometimes I don't even understand them. This deck is Mystic Mondays. So this deck is for, I mean, you can really read that, right? For me, aspects. So aspects in your chart, but particularly aspects between cards. So I have another deck in here that's an oracle deck, and I just took out the aspects part and I put it in here because that's how I use it. And so when I read, I will pull 2 tarot cards and I will pull an aspect card and I will do a reading like that. The OK Tarot, very simple advice, very common advice. It could be profound things that you may be like, hindsight is 2020. It's a very simple deck and it reads really well. I was hesitant to keep this deck because I had also gotten the Kawaii tarot and I had given that away or sold it, and then I got it back because I kind of realized that decks that are very simple when it comes to artwork just need maybe not so many cards, and if you do them, there's a certain way that you have to kind of like start to explore them in order for them to reveal what they need to reveal to you. So there's that. One of my most recent purchases is Affirmators Tarot, for magical guidance from the universe to help you help yourself without the self-helpiness. So this one is like inner child healing, but the reason I put this, this is Solar Sun. Sorry guys, Solar Sun. The sun kind of just represents like an aspect of yourself, like who you are, I kind of feel like, and who you are growing and becoming, and kind of like that healing, like your essence, to me kind of comes through with solar decks. So this one is more like for child healing and relating to yourself now as an adult, and even doing a little bit of like travel, like time travel to heal inner child stuff. This one, fucks with this one so hard. Like, this is one of my favorite decks. The Margaret Peterson Tarot is a sun deck. I also put it in Jupiter and Neptune sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling. But for me, it's mainly a sun deck. And it just exemplifies like this cosmic radiance, essence, bursting forth as a human being. Like, it's so nice, just like what you're radiating, what your guides are radiating, the earth and the cosmos. Ooh, everything that you just could be. Like, this deck is just the shit. The Sun and Moon Tarot, it kind of follows the Thoth a little bit, I think. This one is a little bit quieter. I kind of think that this is a little bit more romantic as a deck. Not even because of the picture, but it kind of just feels like when you're alone or quiet, the things that you tell yourself that you wouldn't tell other people. But I think it does have a little bit of a love bend to it, but just kind of like that burning, not passion, but it's just like a inner flame that may not be like really bright. It's like, but it's constant seeking of truth, a constant seeking of being true is how that is. Insight tarot would be your dreams, your hopes, your goals. This one is connected to Carl Jung. So if you're interested in Carl Jung, then this is probably a good one for you. I know the, what is it, Jungian tarot would be one that you may consider exploring, but this is a good one for your dreams and stuff. I haven't read with this one. I just got it within the last like month, but it's more about your dreams and your hopes and your aspirations. Like, what did you dream of that you let go of that you need to kind of incorporate back into your life? This is your my lunar dark wood tarot. It kind of overlaps a little bit with Pluto, but I kind of feel like it's more like warnings, dangers, you being alone, signals, guideposts that you get along the way, advice you need to heed and take, advice that may be tricky as well. And speaking of tricky, the Deviant Moon Tarot is a really tricky deck to me, but it's really fun and it makes sense to me. It definitely, I was going to say perverts, but it definitely does pervert like messages. It can pervert messages. It's kind of more of like how willing are you or how far you go with like information, like how far does your mind deviate from like the actual message. That's how this is. Like, if you don't have a clear mind, don't work with this deck, because it'll give you messages that if you're like, I don't want to say paranoid, or if you're in doubt or something like that, like you may be likely to not get the messages that are like really good and meant for you. Like, I don't know, like the way you interpret it may not come off really great. The Cloud deck, this is not a tarot deck, but I consider it more like a tarot deck because I read it for monthlies. So I've read it for monthlies and like pick a cards and whatever. So this is like a cheap imitation of a real Cloud deck because it's like a Chinese company, and I wanted to really just go to Japan and just get a real one. So this is from one of my favorite shows as a child, but it's a moon deck to me because it's very much about divining and stuff like that. But this one I use for like moon cycles, and so like moon cycles and like eclipses. It's more for that, and it gives more, not necessarily archetypal energy, but it kind of like an embodying energy. If you want to akin it to archetypes, then that's cool, but it's more like energies at play that are outside of yourself, because I know archetypes kind of are related to not necessarily always human aspects and facets of being, but usually kind of are. The Psychic Tarot, this is just figuring out things. I think if you're going through a lot of fear, mentally going through getting your mind not right as in like in a Saturnian way, which is that pile over there, this pile, then I would say go for it. This one deals, I think, with a lot of blockages, like your mind and stuff like that. This is like this random tarot deck that I got. Like, literally, it's random. Like, it's from this company. Got it at Marshall's. But I kind of feel like this is the subconscious, maybe the darker side, just because the deck looks, I'll show you this one. Looks like that. So kind of like maybe a darker aspect. The Mother Piece Round Tarot, I actually have a personal deck of this, but this is the larger deck that I use for readings. For others, Moon deck, just because it's dealing with water and womb space and healing and things like that. So I'm going to try and speed this Joan up because I have 4 more planets. Neptune, I have the, hold on. I forget what this this deck is called Crystal Vision. No, it's not Crystal Vision. It's Crystal Light, Light of Crystals. I forget what this deck is, but it's a Neptunian deck to me. Neptune is more like figuring things out and really biting truths that need to be peeled through, that show up, and just a little bit of quirkiness that shows up, right? So we have Tarot del Fuego. I kind of feel like this is like a higher mind, kind of like Neptune and fire. I think Neptune is exalted in Leo, if the last time I checked, which could be a good thing, because you get to see all and you get to radiate a lot of quirky truths, and it may be a little bit more acceptable because the cards in this deck are out there, but in this world, it's kind of acceptable to be like that. Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot. Definitely, if you want to do some inner healing work, do use this deck. Be careful. This deck is cold, but it will give you a lot of truths. And it literally is like a mirror kind of like deck. So if you don't like certain aspects to come out, then this deck is literally going to hold space for you to like, for them to show up. The Crystal Tarot is one for doing dream work, I find, what your dreams are telling you, what symbols are telling you, stuff like that. I really enjoy it. Shadowscapes is just a higher octave. It's just really healing and helpful, and it gets to the root of things, but it's very gentle in doing so. It's really, really cool. I just put this one in this pile, but I'm mad because I'm missing a card, and the lady that sold it on eBay was like, I don't know how many cards were supposed to be here. It's probably on the back. Like, lady, like, read the back. Like, I swear. And even if you didn't, why didn't you just count? Like, God. Anyway, so I don't use this one. I might use it and just kind of see if I can get a replacement card or whatever, or just get the deck a second deck altogether, which pisses me off. But yeah, Neptunian. But I kind of feel like the vision that you had, like a really like inspired, divinely inspired vision of something that you created. Uranian decks, kind of things that are interesting, cool, things that kind of come out of left fields. These are the sort of decks that are like that. So the Voyager Tarot, I do get like past life kind of stuff, things from the past, things that you may have forgotten about. Voyager Tarot. Phantasmagoric Theater. This one is just a lot of like childhood stuff, but I kind of feel like looking at things from very different perspectives, because it reminds me of Rugrats, and so very different perspectives come through. Kawaii Tarot. It's a very minimal deck. It's a very lovely deck. It's cute. It's a cute deck. This deck, you have to be really like, you got to be clear. Like with the other deck, like you got to be clear with that one, and you don't need that many cards, and I think that's what overstimulates. So if you're someone who deals with like ADHD and stuff like that, that may be a deck for you, because it's very simple and it doesn't want you to do like a lot. I read with these are more oracle-y, but they're Uranian. They're pathways, they're hexagonal, and you can connect them and make little pathways with them, and I like them because they're more like light languagey, light codey. We're going to move to my Jupiterian. So we have the Light Seers, which is just a deck of being in the moment, of what's in the moment, being in the moment, how you feel. In this moment, I feel this. In this moment, there's joy, there's love, there's light, there's whatever. Let me just go ahead, turn this off. So there's that. Darkness of Light. I find this one to be more for development, karma, fate type things, even though that would probably be more like Saturnian, but I feel like it's in that vein. Fountain Tarot, I feel like not near-death experiences, but experiences that make you like come to Jesus moments. Fountain Tarot. Gilded Tarot, more of your guides, ancestors, not guides and ancestors, but angels and higher beings, like in that vein. That's how I feel with this. The Lover's Tarot, which would be more about seeing situations and getting information and pockets of information. Could be love, it could be things that are fortuitous. English magic, which would be more about like trickery, like kind of how does he get out of the situations kind of thing, like MacGyver kind of stuff. I like that. And then lastly, Saturnian, which is this power right here. This is like Zillick Tarot. I find this is good for womb stuff, as above so below kind of work. This one is just a little bit of maybe telling you about your shadow side, things like that. Inversion tarot, that's how it looks. The Rider tarot. This is more about, for me, like older people, but it's very concise. Like it's older people or depression. I know somebody said the Hermit card could be a sign of depression, but it's one of those decks that is straight to the point and actually gives good advice. Golden Tarot of the Renaissance. This is pretty good. I really don't get too much of an impression, but I feel like it's more Saturnian than anything. The Tarot of the Alchemical Magnum Opus, which is Robert in Place. I had another Robert in Place deck that I sold because this one actually I like a lot. This one I like for ancestral pattern work. So reading about ancestral patterns, family dynasties, lineage, what are the main themes that come from lineage. This one is good for that for me. And then the Wild Unknown Tarot deck and guidebook. This is getting messages from your peer, but your peer is that from the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom. And so the lessons of life as they see it and observe it, and ways in which we don't look at life in that way. So those are the lessons that they have to teach you, and they can be different perspectives on life and love and connection and ecosystem and all of that stuff. But they have things to say about that you may not pay attention to. And so that's their deck. These are my oracles. I'll put this one over here because I put it under Uranus, the Tantric Dakini Oracle. I really enjoy this one as well. It's like really cosmic and stuff like that, and Saturn, like not Saturn, but lessons and shit. So there's that. So those are my tarot-ish decks. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope that you kind of like the perspectives I gave, and look forward to showing these in the future when I start doing readings again. Take care, guys. Bye.